I was just thinking how good their children would look if they ever had one. Given how exceptional Sophie and Tristan were, it was not surprising that onlookers began talking about how beautiful and bright their children would turn out, especially when Sophie herself was so intelligent. The spectators were certain the couple's future children would be a heartthrob. All right. That's enough. I should stop looking at them before I start wallowing in self-pity. This is crazy. They've been kissing for a solid 5 minutes. I know. Sophie is so lucky. She's both a medical genius and a good kisser. Meanwhile, Tristan finally pulled away from her. When he noticed that her long hair was all ruffled, he brushed it tidy and said, "Go ahead." Despite what he said, Tristan was reluctant to let Sophie go and would never have done so if he had a choice. But there was a multitude of things she needed to attend to. Besides, it would not be fair for Tristan to keep her all to himself since he knew how ambitious Sophie was. If he truly loved her, he should let her do what she enjoyed. In front of him, Sophie touched her lips after the kiss, feeling too embarrassed to look at anyone around. Dang it. Aware that all eyes were on them, Sophie stood where she was and covered her mouth in an attempt to hide her embarrassment. All right. You should get going. Okay, Tristan agreed and left in his car reluctantly. It just so happened that Sandra and Simon had just arrived at school after Tristan left, and the two ran over to Sophie. "Sophie, I suppose you're all prepared for today's assessment," they said. Since it was a highly anticipated day for all the students at the University of Medicine, they figured Sophie would be stressed out. "Actually, I didn't do much to prepare for it," Sophie answered. Her words reminded Sandra that, indeed, there was no need for someone like Sophie to prepare for an evaluation of that level. True that. It's Sophie Tanner we're talking about. This kind of exam is not enough to stress her out. By the way, what's wrong with your lips? You've been covering your mouth all this while, Simon commented when he realized something was amiss. Oh, it's nothing. Sophie's cheeks turned red in a flush of heat, and she scolded Tristan in her heart. It's all his fault. I wouldn't end up in this situation if it weren't for him. Are you sure? Are you not feeling well? Simon asked again, worried. Simon, as I said, I'm okay. Anyway, I need to go over to the Chancellor's office. Previously, Dominic had asked to speak to Sophie about the evaluation. All right. All the best, Sophie. You can do this, her friends said. Although they were no longer classmates with Sophie after she skipped a grade, they still remained good friends who supported her regardless of her goals. After Sophie left to meet the Chancellor, Simon and Sandra went back to their classroom, where everyone was talking about Sophie. The duo was unfazed since Sophie was a popular girl at the university, not to mention the fact that the evaluation would happen on that very day. It was not until Simon logged on to the university's forum that he finally understood why Sophie was covering her mouth back then. When Sandra also learned about the news, she darted a knowing glance at Simon and asked, "Are you okay, Simon?" She knew that Simon had always liked Sophie despite the fact that Sophie already had a boyfriend. The question dropped a weight on Simon's heart, but still, he forced a smile and replied, "I'm okay." "How can I not be okay, Sandra? It's true that I like her, but I also know that she deserves the best. She's meant to be with someone as outstanding as her. I'm obviously not the best option." "Simon, you're better than you think," Sandra blurted. "I know I still have a lot to work on, but it's fine. I'll work harder in the future. I might be nothing compared to Tristan, but there's still a long way to go. I'll put my shoulder to the wheel and strive to improve myself." Sandra nodded at Simon's statement without saying another word, knowing full well there was no dissuading him since even she herself adored Sophie. Meanwhile, the Chancellor spoke to Sophie after the latter arrived at his office. "Sophie, I was thinking about making this evaluation an opportunity for all the students to learn, so we will conduct the assessment at the studio and live stream it for all the university students," the Chancellor proposed, thinking it would benefit other students to learn from Sophie. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sawyer, but I don't think this is the best way to evaluate me." Sophie had always kept a low profile. "Sophie, the live stream won't affect the evaluation in any way. Besides, This can silence those people who doubt your ability. If everyone at the University of Medicine sees what you can do themselves, they will be fully convinced. I know you don't care what they say about you, but just take it as a request from me." Since the Chancellor had said so, Sophie put her personal preferences aside and agreed to the live stream. So when the clock struck 9, Sophie went to the studio, where several professors were already seated, waiting to commence the written test. Is there a need to have that many invigilators when I'm the only candidate? Since there was no class that day, everyone at the university tuned in to the live stream via their laptops and phones. Why do I feel nervous watching this? Me too. I don't understand why they need so many people to watch one single person taking the evaluation. We all know how difficult those professors can sometimes get, another student complained. Come on. Why are you guys nervous? It's not like you two are the ones taking the assessment. From their screens, they saw Sophie taking a seat and picking up a pencil before attempting the questions. The questions were not at all a challenge to her since they were about medical theories, which Sophie already knew thoroughly by heart. She looks so calm. I always panic during theoretical tests, but look at her. She's unfazed. Well, for all you know, she might be faking it. She's still in freshman year. There's no way she has mastered all the things we learn in sophomore and junior year. The truth was some of the professors had deliberately chosen tough questions for the evaluation since they did not want Sophie to skip a grade. Although those were just theoretical questions, they were so complicated and required a candidate to have a thorough understanding of human anatomy and rare illnesses. In fact, some of the professors were feeling smug about how difficult the questions were. Rest assured that she will not pass. Not even doctorate students can tackle those questions, one of them stated. I think so too. I don't even know the answers to some of the questions. Actually, aren't we too despicable to be doing this to her? Why? We're all doctors. We know we should always learn things one step at a time instead of taking shortcuts. The live stream was recorded using a high-resolution camera, so when the cameraman zoomed in, everyone could see the questions on the paper clearly. One of the doctorate students, Conrad Cabrera, sucked a breath of cold air when he saw the exam paper. "What's the matter?" his junior asked at the sight. "Even I would have trouble answering those questions if I were doing the assessment." "I'm pretty sure the professors racked their brains coming up with those questions," Conrad admitted, feeling somewhat defeated. Really? The sophomores and juniors beside him were shocked to hear that. They didn't even understand the questions. Actually, they might be doing this on purpose. Maybe they didn't want Sophie to skip a grade. Conrad's conjecture was justifiable since academic acceleration was rare in medical schools and was unprecedented. Although Sophie was incredibly talented, so it wasn't surprising for her to skip a grade, the professors were still out of line for purposely making things difficult for her by picking questions even doctorate students could not answer. But it doesn't mean she can't do it, Simon argued coldly, confident that Sophie was way better than the doctorate student. Conrad nodded and agreed sarcastically. "You're right. Those questions might be too hard for me, but not for Sophie. She's a genius. I suppose her brain works differently from ours." Conrad had always had a sense of superiority because he had been the big shot at the University of Medicine, until Sophie came and became the center of attention, leaving him out in the cold. It seemed like everyone had forgotten that he had always been the most popular person before Sophie came, so when he heard about the evaluation, he took time from his busy schedule to watch the live stream. Deep down, he knew he had come not to witness her success but her failure, for that was the only way he could get everyone to notice him again. "Do you think you're oh so good just because you're a doctorate?" Simon challenged, glaring at Conrad. "Sophie is the person in charge of the medical association, Barney Smith's mentee. You don't know shit. That's why you think you're so great." "Hey, Simon, what do you mean by that?" "I never once said I was good," Conrad sneered before continuing. "We're all here today to see for ourselves what Sophie's got, but remember, there's always someone better out there. There's no end to learning, so don't get too arrogant." Sandra, who had been listening to the conversation all this while, was uncomfortable when she heard those words. for it was apparent that everyone present was waiting to see Sophie make a fool of herself. That's unnecessary, Conrad. Sophie just wanted to skip a grade. She's got what it takes to do that, so what's wrong with it? She finally snapped. Sandra usually kept to herself, but after becoming friends with Sophie, she learned to stand up for herself and for the people around her. Well. It seems like you guys are confident that she will pass this assessment. Let's see what happens then. Simon was vexed beyond measure by Conrad's attitude, but Sandra held him back, reminding him, "It's okay, Simon. There's no point in arguing with them. The result will speak for itself. They will know how good Sophie is by then." Her words spoke sense to Simon, and he relented. She's right. There's no need to create a ruckus here. I don't think that's what Sophie will want to see either. Meanwhile, when Sophie had finished attempting the last question, a smile curved on her lips as she imagined the effort those professors had put in to make things difficult for her. "I'm sorry I might have to disappoint you all," she remarked as she handed the paper to one of them and walked away. Behind her, the professor who took her exam sheet looked annoyed. What an arrogant fool. Who does she think she is? Yet, his expression changed the moment he saw the writings on the answer sheet. "What's wrong?" another professor asked. "She. What did she do?" Too impatient to wait for a reply, the other professor snatched the paper away and took a look himself. His face fell the next second. All of the audience watching the live stream were confused as they tried to guess what the professor's expressions meant. "So how did she do?" a student asked. "I don't know. I think it's either superb or terrible." "Duh. You're just stating the obvious." While everyone was guessing the result, Sophie stepped out of the studio and met with Simon and Sandra, who had been waiting for her outside. Sandra immediately approached and passed her a cup of milkshake. Why do I feel like I've been having a lot of milkshakes lately? Are you under the impression that I love milkshakes?" Sophie asked. What do you mean?" Sandra was confused, for she had not bought the drink for any particular reason. "Nothing." Sophie poked the straw through the lid and took a few sips. "Well, I don't really like it anymore. So, Sophie, what do you think about the evaluation? Did it go well?" Sandra asked anxiously. As Sophie's best friend, she did not want Sophie to end up becoming a laughingstock since there were so many people watching the live stream. "It went well." "I knew it," Simon exclaimed before turning to Sandra. "I told you you have nothing to worry about. Sophie can totally put the professors in their places if she sets her heart on it." "Hold on," Sophie interrupted. "I'm not doing this on purpose. I wouldn't have to do that if they'd been fair." "You're right. I'm sorry. I have misspoken," Simon corrected himself as he gazed at Sophie, his heart brimming with happiness. At that moment, he felt satisfied, although his love for Sophie was unreciprocated. Meanwhile, Tristan, who was supposed to be at a meeting, had taken time during his meeting break to watch the live stream, leaving everything to the general manager. When the evaluation ended, he called Sophie immediately. "You must be tired after all the writing," he said. That was the first time he saw Sophie spending that much time on an exam, so he figured the professors must have deliberately chosen some of the most challenging questions. "I'm good. Why did you call? I thought you were supposed to be at a meeting." Sophie felt Tristan had not been paying attention to his work lately. Although he was the CEO, she still thought he should be more attentive to his work. "It's not an important meeting. They can handle it on their own. They'll have to solve my problems since I spent so much money to hire them." Tristan was right, for there was no way he could keep an eye on every single subsidiary under Lombard Group. "That makes sense. I'm sure you know best." "You're the best, anyway," Sophie complimented. Tristan was so delighted to hear her praise that he smiled from ear to ear. Even his secretary, who had just entered the office, could tell that the CEO was in a phenomenal mood. Noticing that her boss was still busy, the secretary dared not disturb him further. She had no choice but to leave and close the door behind her. You'll know just how capable I am after we're married, Tristan said. Why is he being such a pervert all of a sudden? What are you doing now? Tristan asked with concern. As Sophie had a theoretical assessment in the morning and a practical test in the afternoon, she couldn't go home at noon. How about I come over at noon to have lunch with you? That's not necessary. Noontime is short, so you should go back and rest properly instead of traveling back and forth. Okay. Tristan tapped his thigh with one hand, feeling quite unhappy about not being able to see her at noon. What's the matter? If you have something to do, you can get back to work. Sandra and I are going to eat now. All right. Go and have your meal then. He didn't want to delay her lunchtime. Watch what you eat. You have a sensitive stomach. Okay. I got it. Don't worry. After hanging up the phone, Sophie turned to face the two people beside her. What's wrong? Why are you both looking at me like that? Sandra said. It's just that we've never seen you like this before. You must really like Mr. Tristan, right? Regardless of their characters, any girl would show their docile side in front of their boyfriend. Yes, I like him a lot. Sophie didn't feel the need to hide her affection for Tristan because she genuinely loved him. I envy you for being able to meet someone you're so fond of, Sandra wondered when she could meet the love of her life. Don't envy me. Everyone will meet their special someone. It's just a matter of time. Simon chimed in, I might not meet someone like that in this lifetime anymore. Hearing him say that, Sandra couldn't help but glance at him. I didn't mean anything by that. Don't take it to heart. Simon shrugged his shoulders. Honestly, that's just a desultory remark. The person I'm in love with will never reciprocate my feelings. Sophie fell silent. Should I distance myself from Simon? He still seems to harbor feelings for me. If that were the case, wouldn't it be unfair to him for us to continue hanging out? All right, I really didn't mean anything by that. Let's go and have lunch. There's another practical examination in the afternoon, right? The evaluation was important for Sophie. Although they were able to anticipate the outcome, they still couldn't help feeling a little worried. Okay, let's go. Simon walked ahead, not wanting to see the expressions on the two girls' faces. He was also very annoyed at himself for saying such words. I already know things can never work out between Sophie and me, so why did I mention that to make everyone uncomfortable? Sophie, Simon is. Sandra didn't know what to say either. Forgetting had always been a difficult task. Do you think I should distance myself from him? Sophie was uncertain, but she was willing to do so if necessary. Sandra shook her head. If you do that, he'll definitely be heartbroken. Simon is actually a good person, and he's a wonderful friend. Simon used to be a spoiled scion in the past, but now, he was working very hard to be a better person. All right. Sophie nodded. Falling in love with someone wasn't something others could control. Hence, she was also at a loss for what to say at that moment. The trio had their lunch at the cafeteria. Then, they went back to their respective place to rest. When Sophie reached the condominium, she found Tristan there. Didn't I tell you not to come back at noon? You should have rested in the company. Tristan had a lounge inside his office at Lombard Group, where he could have taken a good nap. Instead, he chose to travel back and forth, causing him to have insufficient time to get proper rest at noon. I came back because there was nothing to do at the office, Tristan said nonchalantly. He felt uneasy when he couldn't see her, so no matter how busy he was, he wanted to come over at noon. You're so stubborn. Sophie was stumped. Tristan walked over and pulled her into his arms. What's the matter? Are you that reluctant to see me? I only dropped by to see her, that's all. What's with that face of hers? That's not it. I just want you to get enough rest. We will see each other at night anyway, won't we? He picked her up, placed her on the couch, and helped her take off her shoes. I genuinely had nothing to do, so I came to see you. Okay. Whatever you say is right. She had no objections. Tristan didn't respond. Fine. Perhaps I've been a bit too clingy lately. Sophie, do you think I'm annoying? Tristan was a little discouraged, but all he wanted was just to stay by her side. No, I will never find you annoying. Don't worry. He didn't know how much she loved him. Okay, what did you have for lunch? I ate at the cafeteria. You should avoid eating at the cafeteria from now on. The meals there aren't nutritious. So many people eat there, so how can the food there not be nutritious? The University of Medicine's cafeteria is still of acceptable standards. They prepared our meals by allocating just the right proportions of nutrients. I don't care about others. I only care about you. All right. I'll try to eat at home in the future. She hadn't asked the housekeeper to come over and cook that day, so she ate at the cafeteria. Why don't we do this? I'll drop by tomorrow to cook for you. He had recently learned a few more dishes and was eager to try making them. Tristan, you're too much. You're already very busy, so you don't need to come and prepare food for me. This man is truly irresistible. Why is that? Is my cooking not good? Do you not like it? He had been improving himself, but he seemed to be lagging a little behind still compared to Sarah. No, your cooking is great. I just hope you can have more time to rest at noon. In that case, I'll cook for you in the evening. Sophie was rendered speechless. Sure. Ultimately, she nodded and agreed. After all, this is a heartfelt gesture on his part, right? They took a nap in the mansion, and at 2 o'clock, Tristan drove Sophie to the University of Medicine. Good luck. Tristan cheered Sophie on before he left. Okay, I'll do my best. Sophie waited for him to leave before walking inward. When the students saw her, they began discussing the theoretical exam in the morning as they still didn't know the results. Nevertheless, everyone was very concerned about that evaluation. Sophie had attained a height they could never reach. Someone like her could easily invoke others' jealousy. Not only was she beautiful and intelligent, but she also had a handsome boyfriend. She was undoubtedly a winner in life. Meanwhile, Sophie had arrived at the principal's office. Sophie, you're here. Perfect timing. Let's head to the site of this afternoon's exam now. Okay. Sophie had no objections whatsoever. The assessment this time will be surgery. Will you be fine? No matter how capable Sophie was, she was still just a freshman. Hence, Dominic was actually quite worried about letting her perform an operation. Surgery? Sophie asked. Dominic hummed in response. Can you, Sophie? If you can't take this up, I can talk to the other professors. He felt they were making things difficult for her. It's all right. I can handle it, Sophie replied. It's just surgery, no big deal. I've encountered all sorts of medical scenarios in the Medical Research Center. Sophie, we're talking about a matter of life and death here. If you fail, it'll haunt you for the rest of your life, Dominic warned. This is especially important for anyone pursuing a career in medicine, no matter what people might say. I can do this, Mr. Sawyer, don't worry. I'll take this seriously and will never take someone's life lightly, she responded. Upon seeing how determined Sophie was, Dominic could only nod in acknowledgement. Dominic and another professor then drove Sophie to the General Hospital. The University of Medicine students, who witnessed that, started discussing it among themselves. What's going on? Where is she going? I thought she has another evaluation to sit for in the afternoon. One of the students asked. I know, right? This is so weird. Does anyone know what's happening? No idea, but she's lucky to be driven by the Chancellor himself. She can now live the rest of her life without any regrets, uttered another student. When did the Chancellor become so kind to the students? Simon and Sandra exchanged glances and wondered what was going on. Where are they taking Sophie? Simon, do you think something happened? Sandra's eyes were filled with worry. Simon shook his head. I don't know. Let's call Sophie and ask her about it. Simon immediately took out his phone and dialed her number. Sophie, where are you going? He asked. She replied. Don't worry about me. I'm going to take the practical exam. I won't be joining you guys for dinner, so don't wait for me. Are you sure? Simon asked again. Why does she need to take the exam elsewhere? What on earth is going on? I'm fine, really. Don't you have faith in me? Sophie said. All right then. I'm going to hang up now. Call me if you need anything. Apparently, Simon was still rather worried about her. Sophie hummed in acknowledgement. She appeared quite relaxed after ending the call. Dominic could not help but nod in approval upon seeing the expression on her face. That's right. An excellent doctor should always remain calm and composed no matter what happens, as their role requires them to possess strong psychological fortitude. A doctor must maintain a level head and remain steady no matter what happened during surgery, and Dominic believed Sophie had all of these qualities. Once Simon hung up the phone, Sandra immediately asked, "Where is she going?" "She's going to sit for the exam. Let's not worry about her. She'll be all right," he replied. "She's a member of the Chinean Medical Association. This is just an evaluation. How could she possibly screw up? She's going to sit for the exam? What's the exam about?" Sandra asked. "Why does she need to go somewhere else to sit for the exam?" Sandra was still haunted by the previous frightening incident where Sophie was taken away. "All right, calm down. I understand your concern, but worrying about Sophie won't help. I'm sure no one will harm Sophie with Tristan around," Simon said. Sandra hummed in response. Meanwhile, Dominic and Sophie had arrived at the hospital. Dominic then brought her to meet the lead surgeon for the surgery. This time, Sophie was not required to perform the operation. She just needed to assist from the sidelines. Nonetheless, Dominic was still understandably worried because of the complexity of the operation. "Sophie, if you encounter any unexpected situation later, stay calm and don't panic. You're not the lead surgeon this time, so you only need to assist in any way you can," he said. Those old men were just trying to scare her. They wouldn't simply risk sacrificing a person's life just to get to her. "You seem more nervous than I do, Mr. Sawyer," Sophie said. "To be honest, I don't feel anything about the surgery. I can even handle it on my own, but I guess I should keep a low profile." "All right. I'm only nervous because you're the pride of the University of Medicine," Dominic said. It had been a long time since the university had such a talented student, and he would not allow anything to go wrong. "Sophie, I know everyone calls you a genius, but we're talking about an actual surgical procedure here. Once you get in, you just need to observe and learn from Dr. Kinslet and don't do anything crazy. You hear me?" Dominic warned. "Got it, Mr. Sawyer," Sophie replied. "Don't do anything crazy?" They themselves made this crazy arrangement, for goodness sake. "I have to go in now. We'll talk later." After changing into a surgical gown, tying her hair, and putting on a scrub cap, Sophie washed her hands. Suddenly, the lead surgeon, Armand Kinslet, walked in. "You're Sophie Tanner." Though Sophie was also wearing a surgical gown, he could tell the young lady had a great figure. Sophie lifted her head and introduced herself. "Hello, Dr. Kinslet. My name is Sophie Tanner, and I'll be assisting you in this procedure." The lead surgeon sized the beautiful young lady up and knitted his brows. "Is this a joke? How could they make such an arrangement? We're dealing with a matter of life and death here." Armand was the best surgeon in the general hospital, but he was notorious for having a bad temper. His expression turned grim when he saw that his assistant today was a young lady. The nurse beside him immediately explained, "Dr. Kinslet, the director made this arrangement. I'll go and talk to him now." He raised his voice. "The director has left for Fandar today." The nurse was aware of Armand's temper, but with the surgery scheduled and the patient in need of urgent medical attention, there was no room for delay. "But don't worry, Dr. Kinslet. I won't cause any trouble," Sophie assured him as she could tell what he had in mind. Since Armand had no prior knowledge of her identity, Sophie did not blame him for feeling distrustful toward her. "All right then. You must listen to me and follow my instructions when we're in the operating room, said Armand after taking a deep breath. It's pointless to say anything now, as the surgery is about to begin. Furthermore, there would be nurses assisting him in the operating room as well. One of the nurses had worked with him for years, so he was confident enough to proceed with the surgery. Armand then led Sophie and 2 other nurses into the operating room. Before entering the room, Sophie reviewed the patient's medical record and had a clear idea of the surgery. Meanwhile, the patient had already been anesthetized and was now lying on the operating table. You don't have to do anything later. Just observe from the side. Armand did not want to put Sophie in a difficult position, and given the critical nature of the procedure, he did not want her to interfere. Got it. Sophie was fine with the arrangement. Since Armand did not want to involve her, she would simply observe from a distance. The surgery proceeded smoothly, and Sophie merely stood beside him and watched. She did not interrupt or voice her thoughts, as she did not want to affect the lead surgeon. However, as the procedure progressed, Sophie noticed something was amiss. Dr. Kinslet, please stop for a bit. Sophie really wanted to be obedient and not disturb him, but a life was at stake. Now that she had discovered a problem, she knew that she had to speak up. Armand knitted his brows. What's wrong with her? I'm already being generous by allowing her to be in here. Didn't I tell her not to talk in the operating room? Doesn't she know that she's disturbing me now? Get her out, Armand said coldly. This operation was difficult, but it was not a major one for him. However, Sophie's yapping would still affect him. Regardless of the kind of operation performed, a good environment was needed, which served as the greatest protection for patients. Dr. Kinslet, I suspect that there is a misdiagnosis, so you'd better stop. This was a matter of life and death, so Sophie could not care less about manners. Even the 2 nurses could not stand it anymore this time around. Dr. Kinslet has done a lot of such operations, yet this young lady, who hasn't even graduated, said that there's something wrong with his diagnosis. How is that possible? Young lady, you'd better go outside. You still need to go back and learn how to respect the lead surgeon. This young lady is going too far. What does she know? Dr. Kinslet has been in charge of this patient from the very beginning. Besides, he has never made any mistakes since he came to this hospital. I am serious. Nonetheless, Armand did not even bother to spare a glance at her. He was very confident in his diagnosis and was certain there would be no problems. Enough. You, take her outside. She's disturbed me. Armand wanted to continue the operation. He did not have so much time to waste as he had another operation in the afternoon. Dr. Kinslet. After Sophie got past the nurse who was about to drag her away, she walked over. Just trust me for once. I'm Barney Smith's mentee. There is indeed a problem with the diagnosis this time. Sophie had no choice but to bring up Barney. Barney. From the Medical Association. Armand had always wanted to join the International Medical Association, but could not because of his ability. That was why he ended up returning to the country. Yes, so trust me. Armand hesitated. If the young lady in front of me is really Barney's mentee, I need to think about what she said. What should we do now, Dr. Kinslet? There was no time for Sophie to explain too much at that moment. Dr. Kinslet, leave the operation to me this time. I'll be responsible for any problems should they arise. That should do it. It was no longer suitable for Armand to continue this operation. Armand frowned. Should I leave the operation to her? But this is my patient. Besides, I still don't know what she's capable of. What if this patient? Dr. Kinslet, we're running out of time. I'll be responsible for anything that happens to this patient. It was a race against time. There was really no time for them to wait any longer. Dr. Kinslet. The 2 nurses were a little worried because Sophie was just too young. If anything went wrong, the nurses and Armand's careers would be over. All right, I'll leave it to you. Armand said nothing else. He thought that since he was there with Sophie, he could step in if anything went wrong. Scalpel. Sophie took over the operation. As soon as she started the operation, Armand knew that her capability was not inferior to his at all, and even far surpassed his. No longer taking her lightly, Armand personally handed her the scalpel. Watching Sophie perform an operation was really a feast for the eyes. The way she conducted the operation and the way she dealt with the tumors were neat and decisive. The two nurses were stunned. They had doubts about her earlier, but at that moment, their doubts had disappeared. The nurses had been working under Armand for a long time and admired his surgical ability a lot. They genuinely did not expect Sophie to be so good at performing operations. The operation was completed in less than 30 minutes. There was indeed a problem with Armand's diagnosis. If the operation had been carried out according to his plan, the consequences would have been disastrous. Therefore, Armand was trembling all over after leaving the operating room. This was the first accident in his career. He had thought he was a really great doctor that would definitely not make any mistakes in his diagnosis. Little did he expect it to turn out like it did that day. Dominic and two professors had been waiting outside the entire time. Upon seeing Armand, Dominic immediately went up to him and asked, "Dr. Kinslet, how was Sophie's performance? I hope she didn't give you trouble." Armand was Dominic's junior. They had a good relationship. "Dominic, if it weren't for her, I think I'd really have had a medical accident today." Armand's voice was trembling when he spoke. Speechless, Dominic was dumbfounded. What exactly is going on? I just wanted Sophie to observe in the operating room. There was a problem with the diagnosis, which was discovered by Sophie. She was also the one who performed the operation too. The operation is very successful. Sophie is truly the pride of the University of Medicine. Armand left after speaking. Although the operation turned out to be successful, he should still give an explanation to the hospital as there was a problem with the diagnosis. Thus, he went back to write the report. One should not be too arrogant, as reality would teach one a lesson. Dominic and the two professors looked at each other in puzzlement. "What did you guys hear just now? Could it be that I was hallucinating?" They knew that Sophie was very capable, which was why they wanted to teach her a lesson. However, they did not expect things to turn out that way. "Do you two still have a problem with her?" Sophie's performance showed that she could even graduate immediately, let alone skip grades. The two professors shook their heads. Sophie was truly a genius. As expected, there was no comparison between average humans and geniuses. Things that others needed 7 years to do well could be easily done by Sophie in 2 to 3 years. Dominic took Sophie and the two professors back to the university. "Sophie, you're allowed to skip grades. Also, you performed really well today," Dominic told Sophie, before she got out of the car. "Thank you, Mr. Sawyer," Sophie replied politely. "All right. See you." He was contented that he was able to have a student like Sophie. Sandra and Simon were worried, so they had been waiting for Sophie at the university. Seeing Sophie, they immediately ran over. What exactly was the assessment in the afternoon? Why did it take her so long? "To do an operation," Sophie replied calmly. It was nothing but an operation to her. Although the operation was complicated, it was not like she had never seen such a complicated operation. All she needed to do was to stay calm during the operation. "So does it mean you can skip grades now?" asked Simon. "Yeah, Mr. Sawyer and the professors have agreed." Sophie thought nothing of it. Sandra breathed a sigh of relief. "Sophie, you're awesome. But now that you have skipped grades, we won't be able to hang out often in the future." After all, their schedules would be different. "It's okay. If you two ever have any questions, you can come to me anytime." "Oh, aren't we still able to meet each other at the medical association?" Simon said. "We don't have to be so sad, do we?" Sandra nodded. "Congratulations, Sophie." "I envy Sophie. We work so hard every day and can barely keep up with the courses. Yet Sophie can simply skip to senior year. Don't compare yourself with me. If you do, you will only be sad." What Sophie said was true. Everyone had their own life plan. They only had to follow their own path and did not have to compare themselves with others. All right. Sandra knew her own ability. She still needed to take things one step at a time. Let's have dinner together tonight as a celebration for Sophie. My treat. Simon proposed. Not tonight. I have other things to do. Oh, I see. Okay then. We can do it another day. Let's have a meal together when you're free. Simon was a little disappointed. But when he thought about it, he knew that Sophie would undoubtedly spend such a day with Tristan. I'm going back then. Okay. Take care. It was not until Sophie got into a taxi that Simon came back to his senses. Are you okay, Simon? When a person liked someone, their gaze would always follow them involuntarily. Alas, Simon's feelings for Sophie could only remain unrequited forever, as it could not change Sophie's feelings at all. Why wouldn't I be? Meanwhile, the university had already posted the notice of Sophie skipping grades on its official social media account, including her theoretical knowledge assessment in the morning. After seeing those questions, the students of the University of Medicine were despondent. They did not understand how Sophie could be this capable when they could not even understand the answers after working so hard. It made them feel depressed. As for the doctorate students of the University of Medicine, they had to study, research, and discuss among themselves to understand Sophie's answers. At the same time, Sophie had already gone to pick up a boyfriend from work, not bothered by the fact that she had shocked everyone at the University of Medicine. She found Tristan with ease since she knew her way around. The latter was already clearing up the things on the table when he saw her coming. How did it go? What do you think? Your girlfriend is, of course, amazing. There is nothing I can't do in this world. Yeah, I know my girlfriend is amazing. After cleaning up the table, Tristan went over, wrapped his arms around her waist tightly, and kissed her hard. What reward do you want? Reward. This has nothing to do with him, yet I'm getting a reward? Of course. A kiss, then. Sophie puckered her lips. Tristan kissed her on the lips. Is that all? She's really easily satisfied, huh? In the evening, they had dinner with the others at Blossom Garden to welcome Charles's return. Charles had returned without Winter. He did not dare to take the liberty of bringing her back without Tristan's permission. Sean, do you have any idea how hard my life was in Fandar? Charles could not help but complain. Charles's skin had indeed become a few shades darker. I know. But you asked for it. Charles had insisted on going there back then. Charles was rendered speechless. He instantly felt unloved as he thought they were being too mean. Charles, where is Winter? Is it really okay for you to leave her there alone? Felix asked. No matter what, Winter was still Charles's sister. Why wouldn't it be? Bertram is still there. With him around, she dares not to do anything out of line. Besides, Winter was pretty shrewd in everything except for matters involving Tristan. Hence, no one could bully her. Bertram is still there? Mr. Tristan, are you not going to transfer him back? Bertram is such a poor guy. He didn't even do anything. What, do you want to accompany him? If you do, I'll help you fulfill your wish. Tristan shot Felix a cold look. Felix immediately shook his head before holding Isabel's hand. No. If I go to Fandar, who's going to look after Isabel? She can't live without me now. I can't bear to leave her here alone. Isabel rolled her eyes at him. He's ridiculous. I guess he's become self-indulgent now, huh? It's okay, Uncle Tristan. You don't have to worry about me. If he wants to go, just let him go. I'm fine by myself, but if not, I can always find another boyfriend. There were a lot of men in Jipsdale after all. Felix's expression changed in an instant. Isabel, what do you mean by that? Are you dumping me? How could you do this to me? You're the only one for me, but you want to abandon me. Don't you think you're being too mean? Felix acted like he had been dumped. The others were bereft of speech. Tristan put on disposable gloves to remove the shells from the shellfish for Sophie, not wanting to talk to Felix and Isabel anymore. Felix, do you see that? Peel some for me too, Isabel said to Felix after seeing what Tristan was doing for Sophie. Sure. No problem. I'll peel some for you. However, Felix was not good at doing it. Looking at the shrimps on her plate, Isabel shook her head. Seriously, what the heck did I see in you? Isabel said with a melancholy expression on her face. Isabel, what you say makes no sense. Don't you know that I have a lot of admirers? That's enough. Can the four of you stop torturing us with all the PDA? Can't you see that Sean and I are still single here? They're too much. Do we singles deserve to bear such torment? Well, I'm not tortured by it. Sean was not affected by it. He thought that being single was fine. He only needed to care about himself, and there was no need to consider anyone else's feelings. He had thrown himself into his work to numb his feelings. Seeing Sean in that state, Charles patted him comfortingly on his shoulder. You look terrible, my friend. You look worse than a sad, lonely single man. I wonder what kind of woman is making him act this way. Isn't all women the same? Everything is the same once they've climbed into bed and the lights are off. Why cause suffering for yourself? No matter who's the one who gets rejected, life goes on anyway. Sean threw a glance at Charles. You're getting on my last nerve, Charles. Charles did not know what to say in reply to Sean's warning. He merely nodded sheepishly and pulled his hand away. Okay, I won't say anything anymore. Charles took a huge gulp of his drink. It's much easier to lose a liver than to break a heart. Sean sure is head over heels in love. A man like that is only ever seen on TV screens. Isabel sighed dramatically. Even those who grew up with him had no idea who the woman was. He had been waiting for her for so long. It had already been years. Yet, there had never once been a woman in his life. Not even in his extended circle of friends. Yes, he's very faithful to his love, Charles agreed. It was very honorable of him. After all, Sean was a renowned lawyer, a man of real talent. For him to dedicate himself so completely to someone was amazing. I'm more faithful than he is, Tristan said softly, reaching out to hold Sophie's hand. It had to be Sophie. No one else would do for Tristan. Yeah. Tristan, too, was completely infatuated with Sophie. She was a lucky girl to have met such a man. What about me? Aren't I loyal in love as well? I had waited for you to grow up. What else do you expect from me? Felix said, feeling rather sorry for himself. He had always been in love with Isabel, but that girl was heartless. The two of them finally got together after a long struggle. Even so, Isabel still bullied Felix from time to time. The two of you, that's enough, Charles said sharply. He could not stand their bickering anymore. Sean looked at them enviously. I'm so jealous of you two. You must live happily ever after, okay? After all, how could they not be happy now that they have each other? Tristan and Felix left to go to the restroom. Felix turned to Tristan and said, Mr. Tristan, the people from the branch in Anglander are now back. I've already made arrangements in regard to the others. As for Ophelia, I have a question for you. Ophelia was quite good at her job. She had managed the company's branch in Anglander commendably well. Now that she was back in the country, she had hopes of working in Lombard Group with Tristan. Ophelia was quite good at her job. She had managed the company's branch in Anglander commendably well. Now that she was back in the country, she had hopes of working in Lombard Group with Tristan. However, the decision was out of Felix's hands. It was up to Tristan. Is she different from the others? You can make arrangements as you see fit. She'd like to work at Lombard Group. Everyone knew about Ophelia's crush on Tristan. If only Ophelia had no such romantic feelings for Mr. Tristan. Since she clearly likes him, how should I make arrangements for her? If something were to go wrong in the future, Mr. Tristan would skin me alive. Felix did not know what he should do with Ophelia. Send her to a branch office. I don't want to let any woman get close to me. Sophie would not like that. He would not allow any woman the chance to even come close to him. Felix said nothing in reply. After all, he already knew that this would be Tristan's decision. Okay, I understand. I'll handle it accordingly, Felix said, washing his hands of the whole debacle. Tristan was so devoted to Sophie that he refused to even allow any other women the slightest chance to be close to him. How can a man be so thoroughly infatuated? By the way, you don't need to tell Sophie about this. Sophie need not be bothered with such silly matters. I understand. Now that the party-loving Charles was finally back, he intended to go to Nocturnal no matter what. All of you must come with me. It's too boring to go to Nocturnal alone. After living in Fandar for such a long time, he was sure that all the ladies must be eagerly awaiting his return to Nocturnal. How disappointing that he could only pick one. I'm in. I haven't been there in a while too. Isabel agreed excitedly. She was currently a public figure, doing what she loved to do, but being one also meant she was not free to go to many places. That was the price she had to pay. Okay. Felix would never deny Isabel her wishes. Sean had no plans for the night. So, everybody went with Charles, even Sophie and Tristan went. They made their way to Nocturnal. All of them were attractive and striking in their own ways. Heads turned to stare when they made their entrance. Isabel, especially, was attracting plenty of attention. Luckily for her, the patrons who were allowed in the bar were not any of her crazy fans. A few people approached Isabel and asked her for her autograph. She did not refuse and even posed for pictures with a few girls and signed on the photos for them. Wow, I'm still so surprised by how popular I am now, Isabel exclaimed. Her dreams had finally come true. You've always been popular. Felix felt uneasy when he noticed several men gawking openly at Isabel. She belonged to him alone, but now, all the other men were lusting after her. Naturally, Felix was unhappy with the situation. Noticing that Felix was beginning to feel jealous and insecure again, Isabel pinched him to bring his attention back to her. I'm in a really good mood today. You're not allowed to spoil my night. Otherwise, I'll be really angry. It's not my fault people want to stare at me. Besides, I'm not losing anything just from being looked at. They can look all they want. All Felix wanted to do was push Isabel up against a wall and kiss her thoroughly. However, when he thought about the consequences, he decided to forget about it. Sophie pulled out her phone as soon as she sat down. Mournful Spirit was in trouble, and someone was attacking the Wings of Light system. Butterfly was uncontactable, so Mournful Spirit had no choice but to reach out to Sophie. Excuse me, I need to take this phone call. It was difficult to explain the situation clearly over WhatsApp, so Sophie had to speak to Mournful Spirit over the phone. Once Sophie stepped out of the noisy bar, she finally managed to catch what Mournful Spirit was saying. Phantom, hurry up. The opponent is too strong. I can't take it anymore. Have you so little faith in me? I'm the one who developed the system's firewall, Sophie countered with a laugh. I'm not joking around. The opponent is really powerful, so... Okay, I understand. Sophie found a cafe with an internet connection nearby and sat in a quiet corner. The internet connection was rather weak. It took her computer about 30 seconds to start up. As soon as her computer blinked into life, her fingers flew quickly across her keyboard. Phantom, where are you now? A random cafe. The internet connection here is not strong, Sophie replied casually. Okay, as long as you're here. I feel much better. Mournful Spirit was so relieved that the person went to get a glass of water. Sophie was capable of resolving any issue regardless of how complicated it was. There were a number of skilled hackers that wished to hack past the firewall of Wings of Light, attempting to find out the real identity of Phantom. However, even after so many years, no one could. It's fine now. It did not take long for Sophie to take care of that hacker. She hacked into his computer and obtained the other party's information too. Seeing the information sent from Sophie, Mournful Spirit was somewhat frustrated. How capable! She solved it in such a short time while I was away to get a glass of water. Phantom, I don't think I'm suitable for the position. You should come back. Sophie said nothing. She refused to explain further. Before Butterfly's return, Mournful Spirit had to be in charge in the meantime. What are you trying to imply, Phantom? With my skills, I really don't think I'm a good fit for this position. Come on, Mournful Spirit. You have no confidence in yourself. Trust me, you can do it. You're just lazy. She continued. If no one wants to take charge in this, I suggest dissolving Wings of Light. Inwardly, Mournful Spirit knew she would say that. Although Phantom did not care, she knew that Wings of Light was important to the others. It was impossible for them to neglect the affairs of Wings of Light. Okay. Is there anything else? I have something to do now. Bye. Sophie ended the call at once. Mournful Spirit was about to say something and got hung up instantly. Sigh. There was nothing else he could do. With that, he let out a helpless sigh in response. It seems like I have no choice but to continue serving Wings of Light. Meanwhile, Mournful Spirit received a call from Eustace. It was a request from Eustace to ask Wings of Light to track down a person. Mournful Spirit briefly looked up the target's information on Wings of Light's intranet. It was not a simple task. Nevertheless, he had to take it because of Eustace's importance. Give me 1 day. Mournful Spirit took up the task, albeit a difficult one. To him, he could always rely on Phantom in the event that he failed to track that person. As Sophie walked out of the internet cafe, she saw Tristan walking in her direction. Why is he here? I was only gone for about 20 minutes. Why did you come out? You've been out for quite a long time. I was worried about you. Hence, I came out to check on you. Did anything happen? Nothing. My friend asked me for a favor. You must be tired. Let's go home. Both of them had no interest in spending time in nightclubs. They only went to accompany their friends. Should we go in and tell them we're leaving? It was not right to leave without saying anything. There's no need for that. I've already told them. Tristan took Sophie to the sidewalk. Seeing them, the driver drove the car over immediately. Tristan opened the back door for Sophie to enter before getting in the car himself. Upon reaching home, Sophie received another call from Mournful Spirit. What's up? I accepted a new task for you and emailed you the information. Remember to read through them. Did I not tell you that I won't be accepting any new tasks for now? Sophie was slightly annoyed. Ugh. Things like this wouldn't even happen when Butterfly was around. Honestly, I thought that I could handle it at first, but the target is too competent. I couldn't track them down. Since he has accepted the task, I can't ignore him and ruin Wings of Light's reputation. Ugh. When will Mournful Spirit stop giving me trouble? With that thought in mind, Sophie frowned. Okay. Got it. I'll read it later. After taking a bath, Sophie turned on her computer. It was at that moment Tristan walked in with a glass of warm milk. I'm an adult now. I don't like drinking milk. Have a few sips. Tristan was actually trying to feed Sophie milk because she was too skinny. Can I not drink it? Sophie showed a disgusted look, refusing to drink it. You really don't want to? Yes. The next second, Tristan took a mouthful and kissed Sophie's lips, feeding her the milk through his lips. That made Sophie utterly speechless. How about drinking it this way? Can you accept it now? A drop of milk dripped from Sophie's lips. He grabbed her and pulled her into his embrace, licking the stain off the corner of her mouth. Her cheeks were flushed. Is he trying to flirt? They continued to kiss all night. The kiss was so passionate that Sophie completely forgot about the task that Mournful Spirit had mentioned a while ago. Mr. Tristan, what are you trying to do? Nothing. I merely wanted to kiss you. Rest early. You have class tomorrow. Sophie was already a senior student, but the University of Medicine was vastly different from other universities. Even though it was her final year, her schedule was still tight. Tristan left in a hurry, worrying that he would lose control of himself if he did not make a move. Sophie touched her lips gently and licked them with her tongue. Tristan's kissing skills have improved tremendously. I'm seduced by his kiss. Helplessly, she turned on her laptop to peruse the information Mournful Spirit had sent. It was then she realized that the client was Eustace. Is Eustace rich enough to get Wings of Light to do this task? I don't think he earns that much though. She pondered over it. Nonetheless, Sophie tracked the target down without delay and sent the information to Mournful Spirit. I've always known you're the best, Phantom. Can you please stop troubling me in the future? I'm a busy person. What are you busy with? Wings of Light is making a lot of profits just by completing a single task. It's not about money. What is it about then? Money is the solution to all problems. Don't you think so? That's enough. Stop troubling me. Or else, I'll teach you a lesson the next time I see you. Upon saying that, Sophie hung up. Moments like that made her Ms. Butterfly even more. Meanwhile, Ophelia had been waiting for days for the result. Feeling impatient, she could not help but look for Felix directly. Felix was her mentor and had been treating Ophelia well. As she was afraid of Tristan, she could only look for Felix. It was early in the morning. Felix came out to fetch Isabel, only to see Ophelia at his front door. Seeing that, he let out a sigh. Ophelia, how about you go to the branch office in Coandria? You cannot return to Anglander for now. Indeed, her actions could easily spell trouble. A crease instantly marred her brow. It wasn't easy for me to return here. Why would he want me to go to Coandria? Mr. Northley, I don't want to leave the country anymore. I wish to stay here. Is that okay? Did Mr. Tristan ask me to go there instead? You should know Mr. Tristan well. Stop liking him. It won't do you any good. Don't get any impractical ideas in your head if you still want a place in Lombard Group. Felix chose to advise Ophelia because of her capability at work. He wouldn't have given her any advice otherwise. He wasn't some saint, nor was he a busybody. Ophelia paled, not expecting Felix's warning. Mr. Northley, I truly have no other intentions. I just want to stay by Mr. Tristan's side. Despite knowing Tristan would never like her and she would never be his woman, she just wanted to be near him. I'm doing this for your own good. Pack your things. I've already had someone book your plane ticket. Ophelia took a step back from the shock. If you insist on sending me to Coandria, I'd rather resign. They won't have any right to decide where I go if I resign. I don't ever want to leave the country again after returning. I want to live on the same soil as him. Felix frowned at her remarks. Do you know what you're saying, Ophelia? She'd better think things through before making any decision. Crying will be pointless if she regrets it later. Many people want to be part of Lombard Group's workforce, but not everyone gets that chance. I've already thought things through. I'd rather leave if I can't stay by Mr. Tristan's side. If that's the only way for me to continue to stay by his side, I'm more than willing to resign. All right. I understand. Let me think about it. Ophelia nodded and left. Felix went to Tristan's office to talk about Ophelia's decision. He relayed the gist of the situation to Tristan. Ophelia expressed very clearly that she only wants to work at the headquarters. She's a rare talent and might jump ship if we don't accept her terms. I think that's what Ophelia meant. She wants to stay at the headquarters? Yeah, that woman likes you very much. Can't you tell? Why else would she try her best to stay by his side if she doesn't like him? Since she wants to leave, let her leave. Ophelia is indeed a rare talent, but I dislike people threatening me. If she thinks I'll give in by threatening to resign, she's completely wrong. Okay. Got it. Felix already knew that would be the outcome. That was why he was frank with Ophelia earlier. There are plenty of talented employees, but Mr. Tristan only has one woman in his heart. Ophelia couldn't suppress her smile when she received Felix's call. However, it didn't take long for tears to fall from her eyes. It feels pointless no matter how hard I work. Mr. Tristan has never looked at me. Not even once. Hence, his lack of hesitation in sending me away at such a time. Honestly, I'm envious of Sophie. She doesn't need to do anything to get all of Mr. Tristan's love. Plagued by heartbreak and jealous thoughts, she went to the University of Medicine after finding out Sophie was enrolled there. Upon arriving there, she began to roam the campus. She couldn't accept leaving Lombard Group just like that and was frustrated that she wouldn't get to see Tristan anymore in the future. Nevertheless, she didn't know what else she could do to turn the situation around. She knew for a fact that Tristan had never taken her seriously. In the end, she instinctively came to meet Sophie. "Ms. Tanner, may I have a word with you?" Sophie was baffled by Ophelia's sudden appearance at her campus. She remembered that the latter was the general manager of Lombard Group's branch office. They did meet a few times before but never had any interaction. Thus, Sophie was confused as to why she came looking for her. "Ms. Summers, is there a reason why you're looking for me?" "I want to stay at the Lombard Group headquarters." Sophie's brows furrowed at her request. "That isn't a decision I can make. Even though I'm Tristan's girlfriend, I never interfere with Lombard Group's affairs." "It seems you got the wrong person, Ms. Summers. You should look for Mr. Tristan if you want to stay at the Lombard Group headquarters, not me." "I know Mr. Tristan will listen to you, Ms. Tanner, since he loves you so much. I'm sure he'll agree to let me stay if you talk to him. You're the reason he made me leave." Sophie arched her brow at Ophelia's words. What is she saying? Me? Realization finally dawned upon Ophelia at what she had done. What have I done? How can Sophie possibly help me? Mr. Tristan is her boyfriend, and I have feelings for her boyfriend. There's no woman dumb enough to help her love rival. Never mind. I'm sorry to bother you. Pretend I never came here. Ophelia turned on her heel and left. Sandra was with Sophie throughout the exchange and didn't understand the purpose of the whole thing. Who was that? Why did she leave after coming all the way here to spew a bunch of nonsense? It's confusing. Mr. Tristan's admirer. Sophie wasn't dumb or naive. She noticed Ophelia's obvious admiration for Tristan. No way. A love rival. She's not a love rival. Her feelings are one-sided. No other woman exists in Tristan's eyes. Even if that's the case, she didn't have to come all the way here to beg for your help. What does her situation have anything to do with you? What is that woman even thinking? Why does Sophie need to help her? Does she think she's all important? All right, let's go. Don't we still need to head over to the medical association? Sophie couldn't care less about Ophelia because she knew Tristan didn't feel anything for her. After leaving the University of Medicine, Ophelia went to Lombard Group. However, she was stopped in the lobby. The security guards denied her entry. She was the boss back in the branch office. No one had dared to treat her so. Nevertheless, she couldn't even go past the door of Lombard Group in Jipsdale. Regardless, she refused to leave. When Tristan came out of the building, he saw Ophelia standing by the front door. It was raining outside, and she was drenched, looking pitiful. Creases marred his forehead at the sight. However, he still didn't want to talk to her. If she thinks she'll get her way and stay at the headquarters by putting on a pitiful act, she's wrong. Tristan wouldn't feel any guilt for any other woman except for Sophie. Ophelia approached Tristan. "I like you, Mr. Tristan." Although she knew confessing her love would lead her nowhere, she still decided to express her feelings before leaving. "Thank you," Tristan replied impassively. "Mr. Tristan, He only has 2 words for me? I guess I really look like a clown now." Tears slid from the corner of her eye. She had always been a strong woman. Yet, at that moment, She couldn't stop the tears from flowing down her cheeks. Ophelia, contact Felix if you are willing to head to Coandria's branch office. Otherwise, don't show up in front of me. Tristan knew he couldn't control who Ophelia liked, but he would never allow it to affect his life. He opened his umbrella and walked into the rain. I need to pick Sophie up since it's raining. I don't remember her taking an umbrella before leaving the house. Ophelia dropped to her haunches and began bawling. She always thought one day he would notice her if she worked hard enough. Yet, she was nothing more than a clown all along. He had never taken her seriously. It was rush hour. Lombard Group employees were clocking out and leaving the building. The first sight they saw after a day of hard work was a beautiful woman weeping sadly at their workplace's front door. Alas, their hearts had hardened after working in the city. Everyone was stressed from living in a big city like Jipsdale. Crying was a common sight. Sophie, Barney, Simon, and Sandra noticed the heavy rain the minute they left the medical association. None of them brought an umbrella. Don't tell me we have to stay here today. Sandra sighed. She had completely forgotten to bring an umbrella because she left immediately after class. Plus, the weather report didn't mention it would rain that day. I'll head back in to borrow one. Simon went back into the building. There are so many people in the medical association that I'm sure one of them has an umbrella. I guess the security guard will also have one. In the meantime, Tristan's conspicuous Porsche Cayenne had pulled up in front of the University of Medicine's front door. Sophie watched her handsome boyfriend get out of the car and open an umbrella before walking toward her. I hope I'm not late. Has she waited for long? Nope. I just came out. Dr. Smith, Sandra, come with us, and we'll give you a lift. Sandra shook her head. It's fine. I'll head back with Simon. Didn't he go searching for an umbrella? You don't have to mind me. Just give Dr. Smith a ride. All right then. Make sure to leave with Simon. Simon had gone back in to borrow an umbrella, so he should be back in a while. Sorry for the trouble. Barney didn't turn down Sophie's offer. Tristan first helped Barney into the car, then returned to pick up Sophie. We'll be going then. You and Simon be careful on your way back. Sophie left with Tristan after that. Tristan was driving while Sophie was in the passenger seat. Barney was quiet in the back seat. Dr. Smith, why don't you have dinner with us before going home? Tristan and Sophie would have dinner right after they got home. Barney immediately waved his hands. No thanks. I need to accompany my wife. He finally got the chance to accompany his wife after getting some free time. All right then. Bring her next time for a meal. It has been a while since I last saw her. I'm sure she's bored since she's all alone here. Don't worry about her. She's getting used to things just fine. Every day after dinner, she would go square dancing with the local old ladies. Her Chilean is now more fluent than mine. Before coming to Chanaea, Jessica was worried about her proficiency in Chilean. However, joining the old ladies helped her adapt well. Really? Sophie couldn't imagine the elegant foreigner dancing with the old ladies. It's true. She came here because of me, and I really appreciate everything she has done for me. Barney was moved by the thought. Jessica has given up a lot for me. She loves you deeply. One would only give in to love. When Barney arrived home, Jessica instantly raced out of the house with an umbrella when she heard the engine outside. She rushed to his side as he got out of the car in the pouring rain. A gentle smile graced Barney's lips at the sight of his wife. Why didn't you pick up my calls? I even thought about driving there to pick you up. Jessica gave him a light slap on his arm. There's no need for the trouble. It's raining cats and dogs out here. I don't want you driving in such dangerous conditions. Actually, Barney just felt bad for her. Jessica had no sense of direction. He might need to search for her instead if she drove. Thanks for the ride. Let's have a meal together next time, Barney said to Sophie and Tristan. Let's have dinner together next time, Mrs. Smith. Jessica had always treated Sophie well, so Sophie liked her a lot. Okay. Let me know beforehand so I can do a facial spa. Jessica was a very particular woman. Despite her age, she would still put a lot of effort into skincare. You don't need a facial spa. Your skin is so supple, Barney flattered. Jessica cast a side glance at him. All right. Stop your flattery. Don't think I'll forgive you for breaking my favorite vase just because you flatter me. Barney reached for the umbrella handle and wrapped an arm around Jessica's waist as they headed into the house. Despite their lack of children, they still lived a blissful life because they had each other at the very least. Sophie watched the two with admiration. I hope we can be the same as them when we're old and gray. Their relationship sure is admirable. Tristan reached for Sophie's hand. We definitely will. We can also be as happy. We'll live the rest of our lives hand in hand. On the ride back, Sophie brought up Ophelia. You don't have to consider me when you make a decision about Ophelia. Ophelia. She went to see you. What's wrong with that woman? Why did she look for Sophie? She didn't say much. I'd always known she liked you. Aren't you jealous? Why would I be? You don't even like her. As long as she was certain of that, the rest didn't matter. Fine. My woman has always been rational. Tristan pulled away from the Smiths and drove to the Lombard residence. They were having dinner with William that day. In the meantime, William had been waiting for Tristan and Sophie. Isabel and Sarah had already arrived, but the couple was still nowhere to be seen. Dad, should we eat first? Aren't you hungry? I don't think he can wait with an empty stomach for long at his age. It's already 8 o'clock. It's fine. Since we already waited for them for this long, we might as well dine with them. Despite his displeasure, William supposed Tristan and Sophie would arrive soon. The sound of an engine soon came from outside. Old Mr. Lombard, Mr. Tristan and Ms. Tanner are back, the butler reported. Set the table. We'll be having dinner soon, William immediately ordered. Tristan and Sophie walked into the house. Their clothes were slightly wet. Sorry for making you wait. We ran into a bit of trouble on the way back, Sophie apologized sheepishly. We're a family, so there's no need for apologies. Isabel, take Sophie to change out of her wet clothes, William said.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.